All right, we've got a bit of a speed round here as we take you into lunch. Lunch will be available around 12:15, 12:20, but in the meantime, we're going to talk some real fun OTT and social media state of the industry kind of things. 2018 was a very big year in the digital media world. Obviously, not only did we have record-setting streaming events with the Super Bowl, then the Olympics, then the World Cup. A lot of direct-to-consumer products are coming out. We saw ESPN+, BR Live, all launched. DAZN debut here in the United States. Fubo, Flow, companies like those continue to grow, and social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram certainly seem to continue to grow in this side. So it was a very interesting year. Ups, downs, a lot of exciting things along the way. We've got 4 very smart folks here up on the stage with us to talk through some of the highlights of the year. First, to my immediate left from the NBA is Michael Allen. I'd like each of you, kind of as part of your introductions of yourselves and what you do, maybe a highlight from 2018 for you and your company. Why don't we start with you, Mike?
Sure. So Michael Allen, I oversee digital products and emerging tech at the NBA. A highlight of ours from this past year was related to NBA League Pass, which is our OTT product, where we saw a 65% increase in subscriptions. So that business for us continues to be very healthy. We're on a similar kind of trajectory this year. So just something we're really excited about.
Just real quick, is that a domestic number or an international number?
That's a global.
That's a global number. Okay, cool.
Andrew Barge, head of sports broadcast partnerships at Twitter. So just to clarify, a lot of great partners that we get to work with, a lot of great partners in this room, a lot of great partners on this panel. So this is not my favorite highlight from 2018, it's just one of them. We launched a high school football series with Adidas and Intersport called Friday Night Stripes. And it was the first kind of premier high school football showcase we had tested on Twitter. But the cool thing about it was a brand kind of owned it from end to end. And to see a brand like Adidas that kind of fancies itself as more than an advertiser really own the consumer-facing experience from literally the name of it all the way through the talent to the graphics package to ad targeting, social editorial, polling Twitter users in real time, allowing Twitter users to submit questions to talent in real time, and really tapping into the immediacy and the conversational nature of Twitter was really cool to see. It was kind of a new type of what we consider to be a sports broadcast experience. So that was, I can't disclose viewership numbers. They were great though. We'll let someone from Adidas do it. But hope to do more kind of brand focused production events like that in 2019.
Eric Black, I'm CTO for NBC Sports Group Digital. I think you stole my thunder a little bit. You mentioned all of my events.
You had a couple of events.
We had Super Bowl this year. 4 days later, we had Pyeongchang Olympics. We also did World Cup for Telemundo Deportes. Who we're really proud of is Super Bowl, I think year over year, continues to grow. 3.1 million peak concurrent users, largest event in U.S. history. But even on World Cup, which was a Spanish language broadcast, obviously in the United States, 1.1 million peak concurrent users from Mexico, Sweden. Never seen numbers like that before, and largely a mobile event too, which was really exciting to see.
Yeah, just real quick to follow up on a couple of those numbers, we dove on this a little bit in the digital workshop yesterday. I remember talking to you and learning some really interesting things in the differentiations between what was spiking during the Winter Olympics versus the World Cup, which was a domestic Spanish language broadcast. You're saying connected TVs, huge around the Olympics. Android phones, huge during the Telemundo broadcast of the World Cup. I feel like that's a very telling, segment of your audience.
It really is. I would say connected TVs wasn't necessarily specific to the Olympics. We're seeing year-over-year growth on all of our sports, Premier League, NFL, NHL. Connected growth continues to be massive. So I think when we went into the World Cup, we expected something similar. We did see great growth, and obviously engagement was really, really high. But the mobile numbers were through the roof and largely Android.
Yeah. Jolie?
Hi, Jolie Roberts. I head up U.S. sports partnerships and content development for Dailymotion. Dailymotion is the video arm of mass media tech conglomerate Vivendi. Vivendi owns Universal Music Group, Canal+, Havas, Gameloft, pretty large array of companies. So one big highlight for us was that we launched the new Dailymotion platform, user experience, and suite of new technology products this year. And actually, in the last 18 months, we've seen about 52% increase in premium audience growth and a little a little bit more, about 8 views per session increase, which is pretty incredible. The new platform that we launched only surfaces premium verified content by the major, publishers, leagues, media networks, et cetera. And so the learning from that was, when you switch from being UGC focused to only premium wins, quality over quantity is really the way to go.
Cool. I kind of want to spin off what I was just talking about with Eric, with the rest of you, and Jolie, maybe we'll start with you. When you look at the various distribution methods and consumption models right now, whether it's a mobile phone, a tablet, a connected TV, a laptop even, I know those numbers are relatively small right now. What are you either bullish or down on any of those? Any of those jump out to you as something that this audience should really take note of?
Sure. Well, I think when we look at the maturity of how content is consumed across all different devices, it's really important to have a cohesive watching experience, not just on desktop, not just on tablet, but really to be able to bring users to all different devices and make sure that the watching experience is the same. So when we launched the new Dailymotion platform, it was very important to us that the look and feel was the same across all, different devices.
Cool. And I'd have to imagine you say mobile, Andrew.
Yeah, so I'll just say more specifically because that's exactly right. We're obviously consumption on Twitter is very heavily mobile, but I just remember when we launched Thursday Night Football a couple years ago, there was rightfully a lot of skepticism about to what extent are we going to be able to drive kind of meaningful time spent viewing and scale and audience revenue attached to an actual sporting event. And 2 years later, we're streaming weekly MLB games, MLS, NASCAR, PGA Tour. So we wouldn't be doing this still if we weren't able to drive meaningful audience for our partners and revenue for our partners. So for us, kind of the social aspect of it, not just mobile O&O, not just kind of TV everywhere, OTT, but actually unencumbered social media broadcasts have at least for us, grown in terms of legitimacy over the year.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, similar to Eric, we're seeing a strong trend of usage moving to connected devices. Not only moving to connected devices, but the amount of time they're staying with connected devices is very long. So that's positive. And then on the mobile side, continues to be very strong for us. I think from a consumption behavior perspective, though, on mobile we see a lot of users come in and out of games, whereas on a connected they'll sit and stay with the game a lot longer. So we kind of try to cater the experience to those different behaviors.
That home television screen's making a comeback, right, Eric? Yeah.
It's all about having an experience that's the same across all platforms, like you said. And whether that's linear distribution, whether that's digital distribution, we want a similar experience. It's not meant to replace, it's meant to enhance. So when we look at data visualizations, when we look at multi-camera offerings, it's to enhance the broadcast. We're trying to get multi-platform experiences that make sense, no matter how you want to consume our content or where.
Okay. Now, each of you kind of come from a little bit of different backgrounds. Andrew and Jolie are both in partnerships, so you might have different answers to this. But I'm curious, from your perspectives individually, what would you say is the biggest challenge in your job right now? You're working in a relatively experimental space where a lot of things are being tried out that are new. Things are breaking along the way, but they're being fixed, and you're seeing successes and all different kinds of things. So when you're sitting at your desk at the offices here in the city on a daily basis, what's the toughest part? What's the thing that you're struggling the most with right now?
I mean, I think from a product perspective and a product management perspective, there's no shortage of ideas and opportunities, and it's really prioritizing all of those and kind of putting them together in a cohesive roadmap while we're kind of monitoring, testing, seeing what's working, progressing the product, while making sure that we're making the right bets, so to speak, with regards to the new initiatives or new technologies that we want to test out.
Andrew, how about you?
As I said off the top, we're lucky to work with a lot of partners, especially, and I think the fact that no two partners are alike, no two networks, no two leagues, no two rights holders view third-party distribution and the KPIs affiliated with that. They're not staffed the same way. Their business models might be different. Their digital content portfolios are certainly different. So the one thing they all have in common is very high expectations with respect to ROI. lot of production and editorial and IP kind of resources dedicated to Twitter. So we spend a ton of time figuring out the way to optimize ROI for that specific partner's business. You can't really have a one-size-fits-all approach. So I think fortunately for us, we're making more money for publishers than we ever have, primarily because of our audience. It's a very receptive kind of leaned-in mindset that you're in when you're on Twitter, and that's meaningful for advertisers. But we have several different paths to monetization if you're a publisher. In-stream sponsorships are kind of directly sold, often fulfilled via pre-roll or branded content. In-stream video ads are more categorical. We monetize custom formats like moments and Q&As. So like there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of slice and dice our catalog and make it work for that partner. But it's definitely challenging on a daily basis. But if we want premium content to continue to flow through Twitter, we have to kind of embrace that challenge.
Jolie, why don't we keep the partnerships theme going on here? What's the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
Rights are expensive.
True.
You know, there's no denying that, that especially within our industry, rights are expensive. So for us, there's a lot of decisions that are made in, you know, what content we invest in, what, you know, exclusive content, original content, non-exclusive content, and then further, what else we can bring to the table in our partnerships to package it. You know, when we talk about investments, it's not necessarily just about monetary investments and fees, it's also about human resources. So for Dailymotion, for a lot of our, you know, largest premium partners like the leagues and media companies and so forth, we give them a dedicated human being that will work with our editorial team, package their content effectively, figure out, you know, what other people from our publisher network we can tap to bring into those types of packages, and then figure out how to leverage the content in the best way to enhance audiences.
All right. And Eric, as the CTO on the panel here, technologically, the biggest challenge you're facing today?
The technical aspect, I think, of what we're seeing, which is really complicated, and we've been talking about this for many, many years, is fragmentation. Sure. We used to talk about it in an Android sense and the device fragmentation, but now with connected devices, what you're seeing is this rush to market with a lot of different publishers, which is exciting to be a part of, and you have hardware manufacturers that are rushing product to market. And what happens as rights are getting more complicated, you've got new techniques of anti-piracy and DRM, you're starting to see things maybe move a little bit quickly. So how do you ensure broadcast level stability on platforms that maybe not as mature as a television distribution workflow? So for us, it's really around fragmentation, and when you get to scale, how do you ensure that that scale is broadcast level quality? Is that
Something that you think will clear up over the few years, or is it do you just hope it clears up?
I think we're all hopeful it's going to clear up. Sure, I do. I think there's going to be maturity. I think we're seeing it right now in consolidation in the marketplace. But you know, it's the consumers that are driving this. So we're going to follow the consumers. We're going to continue to test. But you know, the amount of money that we spend in time on just QA of all of these different devices is quite astronomical right now. So I think that that's going to settle down over the next 12 to 24 months.
Okay. I know we haven't taken any questions from the audience yet today, but if anyone does have anything, we can certainly go out to you and you can shout it out. So think about those, and I'll come back out to you in the next 5-10 minutes or so. Let's talk a little bit about the business side of things, and it's great to have you on the panel, Michael, because I mean, of all the leagues, I think anyone would agree you guys have been very, very progressive in your subscription models, in various options that you have given to your fans, whether it's popping into a game at the end for 99 cents or a couple other new ones that you've introduced. Which ones are you most bullish on? It seems to be very, very positive reception to it. And why do you think that that's been a valuable thing for you to offer fans of the NBA, going beyond that, hey, it's 100 or 200 X number of dollars for the whole season, you get everything, pop into this individual game here individually. How has that been successful for you guys?
So just for those in the room, I guess I'll just kind of give a quick update on the various packages that we offer. So League Pass, you could buy a season package. A few years back, we offered up a Team Pass package. And then it kind of to fragment it out further, we've since released a single game version. We've introduced a partial game, and then just yesterday we announced the ability to buy individual quarters of a game. So really thinking about In some respects, we think about it as microtransactions. And we have a very young, tech-savvy audience who likes choice. And really what we want to do to cater to them is to provide them as many options that we can. Where that's been really positive for us is where there are some of these smaller packages or lower price point packages like single game or partial game, we get them into an experience. They experience the full premium viewing experience. We get a little bit data about their viewer, their consumption behavior, and then we can market to them at a later date. So really, in many respects, it's been very positive in the sense that folks who have bought a partial game or a single game, we find are coming back later down the road to buy either a team pass or a full league pass. So from that respect, it's been quite successful.
Cool. At NBC, Eric, you guys have done some things kind of similar like this with the, some of your RSNs have offered some interesting, single game packages or multi-game packages with the Blazers Pass comes to mind. You guys have NBC Sports Gold, where you have some cycling and some Premier League behind there. That chunking of things, how do you feel that that's kind of worked for you guys?
I think it's advantageous to the consumer. I mean, if you're a cycling fan and you want to watch Tour de France and the Vuelta, that's something you want to acquire, and it's not necessarily a monthly sub fee of X dollars per month, but I'm an Uber cycling fan. It's a niche sport. It's a property that I want to invest in. You could say the same about figure skating. You could say the same about PGA, which is coming online next year. There's a lot that's coming online where I think we can look at not just TV everywhere models, but direct-to-consumer models, and how do they mesh together and ultimately make a more complete offering for the consumer.
Cool. Andrew, why don't you dive a little bit into the kind of the relationships that you have with some of your partners now? You're talking about how you guys are still pumping out a lot of full live games on Twitter. Is that something that you foresee as kind of the roadmap for the foreseeable future? Are you advising your partners to continue to do that? Is there other types of content that you're encouraging them to do? What are you kind of telling your partners now, hey, this is working in our system now, you should try this?
Yeah, I think it depends on the partner, and it depends on the partner's audience on Twitter. And the nice thing is most of our partners have again, dedicated a lot of resources to cultivating their Twitter audience and getting to know them, and they know what they're receptive to and what might not necessarily be the best use of our platform. So honestly, video for the Sports Video Group Summit, like video is the most kind of valuable type of content on Twitter. For 8 consecutive quarters, it's been the largest total revenue driver, and it's our largest ad category. It's like half of our quarterly revenue. So video is obviously valuable commercially. It's valuable to our users. But whether it's short form VOD in the form of like a real-time NBA highlight or an Olympic highlight, or if it's an alternate camera angle to a full game, or if it's an original production of a full game, or if it's original production of an alternate kind of like watch party-esque consumption. So something that will never replace the linear experience. We know that's not going to happen, but something that can kind of augment it in a way that Twitter has kind of organically always done as a second screen experience. We encourage that. So honestly, like, if you look at the NBA, if you look at what Fox Sports did around the World Cup, what ESPN does around college football, it's a combination of both. It's real-time highlights that are published to Twitter moments after they happen, and they reach users kind of in that really combustible moment. But then it's programming some type of pregame show or postgame show that allows like the communal feel of NBA Twitter to kind of reflect on what just happened. And when our partners are doing that together, it can be very valuable for advertisers. There are multiple paths to fulfillment, and because we're an advertising business, that's kind of the perfect marriage, we think.
Any questions from the audience at this point so far? Nope, nothing. All right. Great. Jolie, when you hear this a lot from the social media platforms as well, when they strike a partnership with someone, there's a lot of hand-holding, there's a lot of shared data, resources, and things like that to help make it be successful. When you guys strike a partnership at your organization, what's that relationship like? How does it begin after the ink has hit the paper? And what are they hoping to accomplish on a platform like yours?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's 2 main things, right? Get more eyeballs, grow your audience, and then obviously monetize the content and make sure that you're operating in a mindful, efficient way to distribute your content and get as much, as many views as you can for it. And I think that with the rise of how important and what's being demanded from publishers right now, and at least the volume of content that they're expected to create daily to stay relevant. It's our job as platforms to empower them with as much data and knowledge as possible around their audience on our platform and what they're doing and what's working and what's not working. So, at Dailymotion, we provide them with an advanced stats dashboard, someone from our data team who will kind of walk them through it and make sure they understand kind of where specifically Dailymotion's audiences are resonating best with their content, and then figuring out ways to enhance that traffic on a daily basis. So I think, especially when you look at kind of what we've done with, making the switch from UGC to premium, it's about instilling trust in our partners that we can distribute their content effectively, that we're being supportive of their content, that their content is living in a brand safe environment, and that users are able to trust that when they go to Dailymotion, they're going to see everything that's trending and topical at the time, and not have to sift through some of the UGC, garbage, if you will.
right. Eric, going to take a really hard turn into a not very fun topic, but I know that we've talked about it quite a bit. Let's talk a little bit about the problem of piracy that obviously exists out there. We'll let you kind of take the lead and anyone else jump in who feels that they want. Obviously, we're not going to solve this in the 10 minutes before lunch at the SVG Summit, but
It's a smart room. We might.
I think we could. Maybe we could. All right, let's do it, everybody. Give us something to feel positive about. It does feel, anytime I'm at a conference or we're talking about it, it does feel like this a little bit of a defeatist, like, it just is what it is. We're going to whack some moles, and hopefully, we keep it down to a minimum. How much resources and effort is your team putting into this, and what are kind of the biggest concerns that you have about it right now?
Well, we firmly believe, and I think this is an industry standard, that if you offer the highest quality experience, the easiest to obtain experience, that the users will come. And we've seen that event over event. So I don't want, the sky is not falling with anti-piracy. It's clearly out there, and I think what we're seeing is a lot of advancements in the industry, not just on how do you do studio-grade DRM, and we could get into all the crazy tech here, but as we start looking at how do I identify in a direct-to-consumer model a one-to-one relationship to not just go after someone and target the source of piracy, which we want to do, but to disrupt it, but to offer a better quality experience. Listen, there's nothing worse, and this is sports video group, there's nothing worse than watching a game and then in the middle of it, the stream cuts out or you're hitting rebuffering. We need the highest quality experience to make sure that people are coming back to us, and that's what we see event over event, which is people aren't coming back because it costs money. They're coming back because they want the highest quality experience. That's what we all offer as a group. That's what we have to strive towards. And I think with that, along with, I think, the advances in the industry, I think we'll be successful.
Anyone else have any thoughts on anything they want to jump in there on? I know that's not the fun side of the pool, but...
I'll just say broadly, like, I've been at Twitter for almost 5 years, and we've come a long way from the days of Vine and early days of Periscope. It was, I think, an opportunity for us to learn a lot, and I think we quickly realized that if we wanted to be in this business, we had to respect our partners' IP, and we would not be able to grow our portfolio if that were ever in doubt. So whether it's staffing up on DMCA coverage around big events and being in close proximity with our partners and their vendors, it's obviously hugely important to us in maintaining the integrity of our platform and our business.
I would chime in, and to that point, I mean, you look at Twitter, you look at YouTube, and the efforts that they're taking have been tremendous. And you're really seeing it because as you start getting into kind of the sub-threads of where are people getting the pirated content, that's where you're seeing, poor quality streams, disruption. That's not the experience that people want for sports. They want high quality streams. We're talking about 4K HDR. We're talking about what's next, not, a grainy video that cuts in and out. I mean, that's not how we want to consume our sports. We want really high quality video.
Now, I kind of want to dovetail off of that. In addition to, let's say, and I know this is not a given in any stretch of the imagination, let's say we have high quality stream and latency is at a place where you really, really want it. Let's say that's a given, and now we're building on top of that foundation. What in your mind, Mike, makes a streaming experience, whether it's on mobile or a tablet or even throwing it up to a connected TV, What do you feel is the opportunities for differentiation from the traditional linear television product? What makes this either more interesting or, I don't know if I want to say better, because it's not that the television product's not great, it's fantastic. Where are the opportunities to build upon what's already great?
Yeah, so, excuse me. So what we're calling the next gen live viewing experience is something that we are spending a lot of time at the NBA talking about. It's a high priority across the company. And really, where I think there's a tremendous opportunity is in, again, providing a lot of more choice and options to users. Some users may like that that traditional broadcast view on their big screen TV, and we want to offer that. But in addition to that, we want to provide a lot of other types of features and personalized features that we make available. By example, we're doing a lot with alternate audio. So, there's the traditional broadcasters, the home, the away broadcasters for RSNs, but are there other influencers that we, or I'm sorry, I should say, excuse me, we're working with a number of influencers who are calling our games, particularly internationally, to get alternate language audio, people who may be popular in a certain country who could then reach out to their respective social base to alert their followers that they're calling a game, that they could come back to League Pass and buy a single game or a partial game. So from a marketing perspective, that's very interesting to us. Then when you think about some of the other enhancements that we're working on are enhancements to graphics. We're working with a company called 60 for graphical overlays that are real-time stat sync graphics to make especially kind of the lean-in experience a lot more engaging. We're experimenting with a number of different formats. One that's been particularly successful for us is something that we call continuous feed. So for a premium, you could pay for a feed where there's no commercial breaks. You're constantly staying in the arena. You're seeing those halftime shows, those half-court shots, any of the entertainment to really feel that you're kind of connected in the game. In the fourth quarter of a close game, you're actually in the huddle. So things like that are some of the features that we're working on. And I think what's important for that to be successful is to not offer all those different features to all users, but kind of let them select which ones are meaningful to them. Sure. And again, still reserving kind of that clean look that a lot of fans like the way it is now, but just offering more options as part of the product.
Andrew, what do you think about in that regard? What's the next generation of sports viewing look like? I'm sure interactivity is obviously huge.
Yeah,
Like
so we think about this a ton. We think it's one of the things that we really bring to the table. Again, the conversational kind of engine that Twitter provides, we think it's complementary. We think it's interesting. If you looked at like our verified taxonomy and you tapped into different types of celebrity fans and people from other industries, we think that kind of augments it's something that television can do to an extent now, but if you were to leverage like the data that we have available around conversational volume and sentiment and again, the kind of full arsenal of users that we have available, we think there could be something really interesting there. If you were to integrate fantasy into the equation and kind of personalize your Twitter viewing experience with players that you had starting, being able to tweet at them in real time, like I think there's an interesting two-way conversation that Twitter allows you to tap into that probably isn't as endemic for other platforms. So that's something we think about all the time.
Eric?
All of the above. I think, as a technologist, what's really interesting, and I don't just say this as a Comcast employee, but when I look at traditional linear workflow and digital workflow and how the lines are blurring. Yeah. So you look at Comcast and X1 and the launch of Prime and the launch of Netflix, as we're starting to see IP video take hold on set-top box, that's what's really interesting to me, because now we can start taking, data visualizations, alternate camera angles, social aspects of it, and conversational pieces, and not just bring it to your phone, not just bring it to a connected device, but to bring it to a set-top box. I think the lines are starting to blur a bit. So for us in the room, and as we look at this as an industry, IP is starting to take a foothold and something that's really exciting to be a part of.
And Jolie, I'm not sure much is left on the table, but what are some things that you are looking forward to maybe in the next
It's all right.
few
I'll
years?
take the bullet going fast on this. I have to agree. I think fan interaction is going to grow significantly. I think it's a relatively actually untapped kind of lever that platforms and leagues are just starting to look into now. I also think sub-verticalization will be an interesting thing to look out for. You know, at least in the U.S., we're so used to having a lot of buzz around you know, the NBA and the NFL and NHL and so forth, but there are so many underserved sports that still have a way to go, and there's a lot of opportunity to kind of create sub-environments for those specific sports and create an engaging kind of community for those people and those fans.
Cool. We got a couple minutes left. Last chance for a question from the audience. Anyone? Yes, I see someone back there. Mike's headed your way.
Yeah, primarily for Mike, but if any others want to comment on this, I'd like to kind of hear about how your strategies for OTT or even social media differ when focusing on the US versus international markets, overseas markets.
Well, I think the biggest difference, particularly related to OTT, is there are a lot of linear deals, obviously, that we have in the U.S., so we have to respect national blackouts, local blackouts, things of that nature, whereas we don't have as many of those restrictions internationally. I would say that's probably the biggest difference for us.
All right, we got about a minute or two left to go, so a quick lightning round to close things out. Industry-wide, what's a key trend or technology that you feel could potentially have a big impact, to whether it's in 2019 or in the near future? Could everything, I mean, we've dropped some of the names, some of the numbers and letters already throughout panels today, whether it's 5G or AI or anything like that. It could be something totally off the rails. Something that you're looking forward to in 2019 that maybe not impacting you today, but you're making sure to keep an eye on it.
So for me, we're paying very close attention to betting. And as there's more legalization across states in the U.S. in particular, we think there could be in the future a good opportunity to really merge the betting experience and the live viewing experience, and kind of thinking about those, what would that look like if that was an all-encompassing product? So something we're really interested in.
Semi-related, I guess, machine learning as a subset of AI, and that impact on the betting bookmaking world is going to be very interesting. Already has, but and then how players are scouted. But machine learning is the technical foundation for kind of how Twitter takes on its biggest problems, and obviously in a world of kind of spam and misinformation and malicious use of bots, like machine learning is crucial to solving that problem, and it makes Twitter more personalized and more real time, and we're actioning on spam at 2x the rate we did last year, so it's heavily relied upon. So both internally at Twitter as well as seeing kind of the broader sports applications to that algorithmic technology is going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, two quick ones. HDR, I think it's going to transform the way that we're viewing this. The quality is just incredible. The second one that I would really like to see, and I think will take a foothold, is AR. And how does AR ultimately impact sports and sports delivery? I think that has tremendous upside potential.
So all of the above, but I
Keep
also
leaving you the table scraps. I'm sorry, I should have started at the other
It's
end.
okay. But also I think the use of data, how platforms and leagues and media companies are getting their data, how they're using it, how they're being responsible with it too, to kind of maintain brand integrity and their distribution strategies.
All right, well, all of you, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us. Please give these folks a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.